Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Wedding Party Podcast with Mae and Baba and Erika.
Hello, everyone. So Mae, what do you want to talk about today?
Today, I think we are going to talk about first looks and how you can incorporate them into your wedding. Are they important? Why? What? How? I don't know.
All right. So first of all, for anyone who doesn't know what a first look is, that is when the couple goes and sees each other before the wedding, by themselves usually, so that they have that intimate time together before the big ceremony starts. So we've got some people who are totally for it. They love it. And we've got other people who are totally against it and hate it. So we're going to talk about both sides because, well, Mae's a photographer, so she has all kinds of opinions on that. I don't have really an opinion. I guess my stance is you do what you want to do. And if it makes you happy, the only thing I will say for a pro for it is if you have a venue that you have to be out of the space by a certain time, 11 o'clock, and you want to have more time to party and do things with your guests, getting all those pictures done before the ceremony, because then you do your first looks, your couples pictures and your your bridal party and all that stuff. I guess I should say wedding party before all that, so that the only pictures that are really left at the end are the family, and that's it. Or some people do all the pictures beforehand.
Yeah.
So yeah. What say you, Mae photographer?
What say me? Well, I personally am a fan of the first look for a few reasons. The main one just simply being efficiency. Mm-hmm. If you're not terribly traditional, then it's a great way to just kind of knock out all of the, more like boring kind of post photos ahead of time. When you're scheduling out a timeline for a wedding, I think couples suddenly come to the realization that 6 to 8 hours on their wedding day can zoom by pretty quickly.
Right.
And if you're spending an hour or more of that in the middle of your wedding, away from your guests and shooting photos, everyone starts to get really antsy. Everyone gets impatient. It's really hard to gather everybody. So I love suggesting a first look because it just helps move the day on a lot more smoothly. If you're more traditional, and I know some brides or grooms, sometimes I've had the groom speak up and be like, no, I want to see my bride or my groom walking down the aisle to me, and I want that to be the first look.
Right.
I feel like, it usually seems to be the partner that's waiting at the end of the aisle. They usually seem to have more of an opinion of it than the person actually walking down the aisle second.
Yes, that is true.
But when you're planning your timeline, if you do want to save the first look for as you're walking down the aisle, then the short answer is simply create more space after your ceremony on your timeline and know that all your pictures will have to be done then.
Right.
But if you want to enjoy your party and your guests and enjoy your cocktail hour and actually hug and visit with people and ride that adrenaline wave after your ceremony with
right.
friends, then do a first look and embrace it and have fun with it. And, there's definitely lots of things that you can do to make it more intimate or sentimental or personal and still kind of have some of that magic, even if it's
right. Not. And I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, obviously I've done a whole lot of weddings doing both ways, and it's honestly, it depends on the couple. I mean, if you are more traditional, where you want everybody to wait and you want your partner to see you at the same time as everybody else does, and that whole big moment, that's great. But if you're more of a laid back and, this is a party and we're going to have fun, and because after the first look is over, the entire bridal party, they hang out and they they party and stuff, and everybody's really relaxed for the wedding, for the actual ceremony. So, there's that. Now, you also have your parents that have an opinion on that, which they can have as many opinions as they want, and that's great for them. But
they can write them down and put them in their pocket.
Exactly. Or they can write them down and then they can share them with me, and that's fine. Yeah. And I will nod and smile and say, that's great, but you're not getting married and this isn't your day. So, tough. But, I don't know. I've had some really amazing first look things, because there's not just the first look with the couple, there's the first look with the parents. Yeah. That's another big thing. Let's just take a bride who she will have her first look with her dad first, and then she'll have the first look with her fiance.
That'll get the waterworks going.
And it's a very emotional thing. And I think when people are, when they're more private, they would rather do it that way so that they don't have 100 people staring at them as they're walking down the aisle going, oh my God, look at the reactions and look at this. And, and it's a lot of pressure. And I come across a lot of couples that they don't like the spotlight on them. They don't want to be the center of attention, even though they're, it's their day. So that's just one more thing that kind of eases them, is to get that out of the way. But it's personal preference, as is everything else.
Yeah. And, I always tell my brides too, because some people do be like, they say, well, I'm getting really nervous and I don't know how all this is going to go. And I'm like, listen, a first look is a great way to relieve all of those jitters.
Yeah.
You get ready, you're hanging out. And as that, emotion starts to build and the nerves start to get there, if you know that you're going to see your partner before the ceremony and you guys can have like some of that emotional release in a private, intimate moment.
Right.
I feel like it really kind of centers and grounds a lot of my couples. Mm-hmm. And I think it just kind of kicks off the whole day. Instead of being nervous and full of anticipation up until the ceremony starts,
right,
you can release some of that energy out before you go to the ceremony. And I feel like they're a lot more present, a lot more calm. And
they actually get to enjoy, the ceremony, because I know some couples that, they're so tense and so nervous going down the aisle. And of course, there's some that are just like, yay, so it's kind of just to get that going,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other things aside from just the emotional aspect is a first look is also, like we mentioned, a good way to knock out some of those, the staple portraits. You want those photos, but it's a good way to knock them out ahead of time. And when you schedule it right after a first look, it's so easy to get everybody on board, because you can be like, listen, 3:00, I need you dressed, clean, and all gathered in one spot. And then it's really easy for everybody to just plan on that one set time. Everybody's usually sober at that point, or sober-ish. Mm-hmm. They're clean, they're dressed, they haven't had a chance to get their clothing stained, they haven't had a chance to turn like all red and sweaty in the summer sunshine. And as the ceremony goes, there's so much adrenaline and excitement after the ceremony. Mm-hmm. It is so hard.
That's that's the other thing. I mean, it's like herding cats afterwards, because after the ceremony, everybody knows. So typically, in a traditional, you have the ceremony, and then after the ceremony, if you have a receiving line, which, it's funny because people who don't have like a formal receiving line, it ends up being a receiving line because everybody wants to say hi to the couple and congratulate them and do all that. So you've got all these people gathered around, and, you bombard the couple because everybody wants to do their congratulations. And, I know Mae and I at a wedding, we're like trying to, give everybody a little bit of that time, but still, okay, the guests need to go to happy hour, the bridal party, the family, come down here with us.
We need one of those like crooks where we can just like,
just kind of pull people along. So, I mean, it does alleviate that, because the longer it takes to get those pictures done, the longer or I guess the less time you're going to have for dances, because then you also have golden hour and sunset pictures,
Right.
you know.
And
So
oh, you go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And that's another selling point too that I always like to suggest to couples is, you know, to tie in with this golden hour is if you do the first look ahead of time and knock all of those photos out of the way, then you're also going to have the time and the willingness to step away from your party in the evening once you've gotten through some of the festivities and visited with people, and you're going to be really excited and ready for a golden hour session, which is super fun, super romantic, and it's a great way to add some variety to your overall wedding gallery when you're done. So instead of doing all of your photos at the same time with all the same lighting, the same environment, it gives you a chance to explore your venue a little bit more, use different elements that might not have been available to you during different parts of the day due to lighting or whatever. So there's just so many great reasons to do it. Also, if you have kids in your wedding party or small kids in your immediate family group that you want to photograph, they're definitely going to be more willing before the ceremony because they're dressed and they're excited. But after the ceremony, those kiddos, they want to eat their food. They want to get out of their dress. They want to go play. And you're just going to lose them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. So what it comes down to, I guess, I mean, is you know, personal preference, your timeline, which we're going to do another vodcast on timelines. So we'll talk more about that. But as far as, you know, do you have any last words on yes, yay or nay on the first look?
Yeah, one more thing I might want to add is some couples like the idea of a first look due to, you know, the whole time budget thing. Because then after the wedding ceremony, all you really need to do is maybe some group photos with extended family because they might not show up until closer to the ceremony. But their biggest concern might be, well, you know, if we're going to kind of lose this initial romantic fairy tale moment of seeing each other down the aisle for the first time, you know, how can we incorporate some of that romantic whatever, you know, at the first look? And so I've seen a lot of couples do little things to make it a little more personal and romantic for a first look, like exchanging little gifts with each other, exchanging little love notes, or I've actually even had one couple that had private vows that they exchanged with each other before the ceremony during the first look out loud. And it was so beautiful. And
you know, those
felt like I shouldn't have been there before.
I know. I've been to some of those and I'm just like, I mean, it's just, I'm trying not to cry because I think I've said before, I'm at what I mean, I will cry at certain parts still. And it's hard, but yeah, sometimes they're very, you know, it's just an intimate kind of thing.
So I guess it is what you make of it. If you want to have more time to party, but you also want some of those romantic fuzzy moments, make it happen. We can make it happen at any point. It doesn't have to be while everybody's staring at you.
Right.
Because I relate to that. I mean, I'm a photographer. I like to be behind a camera. You know, I would feel very awkward, you know, experiencing all these extremely emotional moments in front of my family if I didn't at least have a warm-up round first, a little first look moment to, you know, just take it down a notch.
Exactly. All right. Well, there you go. So whether or not you would like to have a first look or not, personal preference, it depends on your timeline, how much time you have, what you want to do, what your personality is,
how obedient your family members are.
And, you know, whatever decision you make, it's going to be the right one. It's not like, you know, anything that you choose is going to be wrong. So with that, we're going to close this episode out and we'll see you next. What?
We didn't even talk about what happens if you don't do a first look. After the ceremony, if you're walking down the aisle, what are some ways that we can still make your timeline work so that you're not missing out on your party, but you skip the first look, you've been dreaming of this moment for a long time, you want to walk down and you want your partner to see you for the first time, how are we going to get all these photos done now? I've got a solution for you.
Okay, what is that solution, Mae?
All right, so that solution simply comes down to making sure that you definitely have a cocktail hour scheduled, making sure that you definitely have enough buffer time between the ceremony ending and your dinner being served, and knowing that you're probably going to spend at least an hour taking photos directly after the ceremony. So maybe consider not doing a receiving line. Maybe consider having your ceremony earlier in the day to compensate for that time block in the afternoon for photos. And I've definitely done some things where we split it up a little bit, where we did a couple of the photos before the ceremony, you know, so like the brides with their bridesmaids and the grooms with their groomsmen, and kind of done a few things before the ceremony where they haven't seen each other yet. But ultimately, as long as you've scheduled enough time after your ceremony, knowing that it's going to take some time, everything should be okay. You just have to talk to your family a bunch and remind them over and over that this is what's happening after the ceremony. I've even had some officiants make announcements,
Yep.
you know, before they walk back down the aisle of like, hey, family members, you know who you are, you know, meet at that barn, you know, because we're going to take photos. So that's my microphone. So just communicating with your family ahead of time, not like an hour ahead of time, but like weeks ahead of time, you know?
And that'll go into your timeline, which we're going to do another session about that next. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. If you have any questions, please, always, you can reach out to us, put some comments down there. And thanks for joining us.
High five.
I'm going to get this. All right. Bye.
Bye.